Hi, my name is Devin Allen. Is solitary confinement inhumane? That is the topic I would like to discuss today. As a police officer with 10 years of experience, I've had run ins with offenders who have spent time in solitary confinement. While they all have different stories, there has been one thing in common: the feeling that being in solitary impacted their mental health. As of now, the United States has no-sit laws that regulate solitary confinement. This topic is relevant to you all because cost of imprisonment and the mental health of inmates impact the officers and even the taxpayers as well. As a police officer, I've heard stories of offenders in solitary confinement. I've also had firsthand experience of dealing with offenders in solitary. I hope to inform you that excessive solitary confinement is inhumane and has a great impact on inmate mental health. To begin, I will give statistics and long-term effects of solitary confinement. Later, I will report first-hand accounts from those in solitary confinement. Lastly, I will discuss court cases and the use of solitary confinements in other countries versus the United States. I will start off by discussing the impact of solitary confinement that it has on mental health. Studies show that prolonged confinement causes mental degradation. A PBS article, What Does Solitary Confinement Do to Your Mind, by Jason Breeslow. It says that into the research surrounding solitary confinement and mental health. They report that mental studies that look into solitary confinement's impact on one's mental health conclude that sensory deprivation and isolation causes hallucinations. They also report human studies being few due to few participants willing to subject their bodies to these circumstances. Circumstances that humans are imprisoned or regularly subject to. These effects include panic attacks, paranoia, and difficulty with concentration, thinking, and memory, with a host of other effects. Solitary Watch reviews letters sent to inmates discussing their experience in solitary confinement. The first-hand experience of a woman who was in solitary for 5 years revealed that harsh impact on the mental state of those who were otherwise healthy. Sarah Jo Pender, an inmate, reported that women removed chunks of their own skin and slit their own throats. Those women were healthy before entering solitary confinement. Inmates are not the only ones affected by inmate housing in solitary confinement. Statistically, it costs more money to house inmates in solitary confinement. According to a PBS article by Angel Toos entitled, Does Solitary Confinement Make Inmates More Likely to Reoffend? Recidivism rates for people who are in solitary confinement are reported to be 61% compared to 49% of prisoners in the general population. Reoffending costs the economy by having taxpayers pay for arrest, trials, and housing the offender. According to Cell Rodriguez from solitaryfacts.com, it costs in the upward 75,000s to house inmates in solitary confinement per year, where the average cost to house inmates in prison in the general population approximately $31,000 according to the Law Dictionary. Internationally, solitary confinement has been condemned and deemed to be inhumane. There's an emerging calling for the end of the use of solitary confinement internationally. Human rights activists and experts have renounced the use of solitary confinement. The Center for Constitutional Rights supported the court case Wilkins versus Austin, in which the Supreme Court ruled in favor of not confining prisoners to long-term solitary confinement in supermaximum prisons without being able to challenge the placement. According to the Center for Constitutional Rights, the UN Special Rapporteur determined that the use of solitary confinement should be limited to 15 days. Any longer is considered cruel, torturous, and an inhumane type of punishment. Today, we've discussed the research pertaining to solitary confinement and its impact on humans. Human rights experts, solitary confinement is inhumane. We discussed the impact of solitary confinement on mental health and in long-term exposure to solitary confinement is unhealthy. Those who were in solitary confinement are more likely to return to prison, costing taxpayers more money. Human rights activists have taken steps to regulate solitary confinement. In conclusion, solitary confinement is an excessive and inhumane environment. Thank you.